The facts matter.
The fallout continues. 2 Rocky Mount police officers who were there now face federal charges. This is a story we've been following very closely. 10 News reporter Shane Dwyer is live this evening outside of the federal building in downtown Roanoke. So Shane, you sat in on the hearing just hours ago.
Yeah, Lindsay, just wrapping up within the last hour. They were both given a $15,000 unsecured bond. We learned today that the federal government wanted them to have to wear GPS ankle monitoring bracelets while out on bail. But the federal judge here in Roanoke felt that that was not necessary because both of these men are police officers and military veterans. Now, they are banned from being anywhere in Washington, D.C. throughout the course of this, except for their court proceedings, and also from taking part in any protest anywhere in the United States while out on this bail. Now, this is the photo that went viral that we're sure you have seen. This is officers Jacob Fracker and Thomas Robertson posing inside the Capitol's crypt the day of the riot. It was initially leaked online, and then Robertson posted it himself, saying they had been let in by police and did nothing wrong. Now, Capitol Police cited not just the photo, but this Facebook comment thread in which they both admitted to being in the Capitol. The two face federal misdemeanors, knowingly entering or remaining in restricted grounds, and violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. Now, the United States government is not pursuing jail time in this, but both men are also required to give up their firearms until this matter is taken care of. Their next court appearance is January 19th. Live in Roanoke, Shane Dwyer, 10 News, working for you.
She says all she did was photograph and record some of last week's chaos at the Capitol without knowing how serious it had become. But the Bexar County Sheriff wants Lieutenant Roxanne Mathai gone. Now her attorney tells our Dylan Collier his client has faced significant backlash since making those posts last week, and that he believes she'll eventually be cleared of any wrongdoing.
This 35-second video recorded by Lieutenant Roxanne Mathai was posted to social media after a line of Capitol Police had already been breached Wednesday. An insurrection during which 5 people died, including an officer. Dozens more police were hurt. In one post, Mathai described the scene as one of the best days of her life. But Mathai's attorney today says she remained on the lawn and made the post while unaware of the lawlessness that played out in front of her and then inside.
She didn't know what had happened. She didn't know there was bloodshed.
Cortez called some of Mathai's language on Facebook social media bluster, and that when she said she was going in, it was in reference to the crowd outside the Capitol and not the building itself.
So her role in the chaos is really just attending a political rally for a president whom she supports.
Sheriff Javier Salazar last week said his intent is that Mathai never work for BCSO again, and that she remained at the protest long after it was clear that it had evolved into illegal activity.
When the police have begun to use irritants like pepper spray, tear gas, that's an indication that it's time to get out of there. If you're part of a crowd at that point, you need to vacate the area. How can I be clear on that as a member of the media and she, a member of law enforcement, not seem to understand that?
Well, again, we have to look at her position at the time,
which Cortez contends was hundreds of feet away from the riot itself. For the defenders, Dylan Collier, KSAT 12 News.
Cortez said he believes Mathai could be cleared in a separate internal affairs investigation as soon as this month. In that case, he said Mathai alerted her superiors after getting messages from someone she believed was in jail and that she did nothing wrong. We'll be right back.
Police officer in trouble following last week's riot on Capitol Hill. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Gutierrez.
And I'm Christine Noel. That 18-year veteran now on administrative leave, accused of posting photos of himself in the middle of that chaos. Channel 2's Michael Lepardi spoke with our legal analyst about the latest developments. Michael?
Christine, our legal analyst, said that whatever happened in Washington, D.C. could very well follow that officer back here to HPD headquarters. We also asked him to weigh in on the First Amendment in relation to this whole case as well. An officer with the Houston Police Department is now on administrative leave, accused of entering the U.S. Capitol last week as protesters stormed the building.
I can't tell you the anger I feel at the thought of a police officer and other police officers thinking they get to go storm the Capitol.
Sources tell Channel 2 the officer is Tan Pham, an 18-year veteran of the department with no disciplinary history. No one answered when we knocked at his listed address, but the Houston Chronicle says Pham told them, quote, "I shouldn't have done it. I was there to take pictures." Chief Art Acevedo says the officer traveled on his own time and could now face federal charges.
He got into the Capitol, and that's all I say.
Channel 2 legal analyst Brian Weiss says police officers have the same First Amendment rights as everyone else to travel and demonstrate peacefully.
That does not give this officer or anybody else the right to violate federal law and becoming someone who could ultimately be charged with a federal offense.
The chief was tipped off by a picture sent by a community member and went to Facebook to confirm the officer was there. Weiss says any related social media posts could play a role in the investigation.
What we put on social media, we do so at our own peril.
And the neighbors that we spoke with did not want to go on camera, but described the officer simply as a nice guy. That officer was given notice of a hearing with the chief on Friday. We're live downtown tonight. Michael Lopardi, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Michael planning to open a murder investigation following the death of this Capitol police officer. Brian Sicknick was struck in the head with a fire extinguisher during that mob and collapsed. He died at the hospital. The 12-year veteran is the 5th person to die in that attack. Now, hours after Officer Sicknick was savagely beaten, Chicago Police's union boss John Catanzara said in an interview that the rioters were just trespassing and no one was hurt. His comments drew a rebuke from the National Fraternal Order of Police. The National Fraternal Order of Police rejects this gross mischaracterization and sees the incident for what it was, a violent mob of looters and vandals visiting fear and destruction on one of our most sacred spaces, who should be held accountable for their actions and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Now, Catanzara offered his own apology, saying in part, "I was in no way condoning the violence in D.C. yesterday. My statements were poorly worded. I certainly would never justify any attacks on citizens, democracy, or law enforcement. After seeing more video and the full aftermath, my comments would have been different."
Week after a deadly insurrection at the Capitol, threats of violence online land a Polk County man, who is also a former police officer, in custody.
And now there is concern about what might happen when that man gets out of jail. Our Polk County Bureau reporter Stacy DeSilva has that story.
53-year-old Shannon Badgett told detectives he wasn't going to follow through with the threats he made online. But the police chief here tells me, with everything going on across the country, the risk was just too high.
I can't have it happen on our watch.
Haines City Police Chief Jim Alensky tells 8 on Your Side his officers acted swiftly to bring in this man, Shannon Badgett. The chief says Badgett was upset over voter fraud allegations. He was on Facebook making threats against a Supreme Court justice, saying he was headed to D.C., a, quote, target-rich environment. Badgett, a retired police officer from Ohio.
Police officers and people of military, they understand the system. They understand what police do.
8 on Your Side spoke briefly with his wife.
I haven't gotten anything. I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything. So please, just leave me alone.
So we did, but police say it was family members who reported his post to law enforcement, including one that said he was building anti-tank rifles and machine guns.
Family members we spoke with were very concerned that he would take out these acts that he's talked about on Facebook. They were very concerned because they felt he had the know-how and he definitely had the will to do it.
We're told Badgett's also on the FBI's radar for threatening emails sent to a Nevada judge. Family told detectives the Secret Service had paid him a visit a few years ago, again, because of violent threats he made online.
And there is a chance he could get bail. This is a third-degree felony, so he may get bail before Inauguration Day. So that's very concerning to me.
Badgett is currently hospitalized under the Baker Act. Reports out of Ohio say he retired from a police force there after being involved in a deadly shooting. He was cleared of any wrongdoing by a grand jury. Reporting in Haines City, I'm Stacy DeSilva, 8 on Your Side.